This is ogforums.com Real Talk, an unfiltered, independent perspective on Acumatica Cloud ERP. My name is Tim Rodman, and I want to mention three things in this pre-recorded intro before we get started. First, thank you to our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Paya. Paya offers Acumatica users a suite of industry-leading payment orchestration tools. Far beyond native Acumatica payments, Paya enables EMV NFC terminals for countersale. They offer a frictionless customer portal through their click-to-pay solution, and they support most e-commerce platforms and point-of-sale solutions used with Acumatica, such as One Retail and Acu POS. And best of all, omni-channel reconciliation is available for all their solutions. Our second sponsor is DataSelf. DataSelf Analytics is a revolutionary reporting solution that enables organizations to make the most informed decisions faster and easier than ever. It uniquely simplifies business intelligence, empowers anyone to build and access dashboards, and delivers critical business insight when and where you need it. Our third sponsor is Aldrich Web Solutions. Are you a distributor using Acumatica, yet struggling with an e-commerce fit? US-based Aldrich Web Solutions out of Marion, Illinois, has 2 decades of experience helping distributors find success online. Our team of experts built the integration, creating websites that work effortlessly with Acumatica. With our reputation for swift customer service and meticulous attention to detail, we are the perfect fit for distributors needing online solutions. Please take a minute to support this podcast by clicking each one of the sponsor banners located at augforums.com/sponsors. Our sponsors track clicks, and every click helps to support this podcast. The second thing I'd like to mention is that I'm always looking for victims. I mean guests. If you use Acumatica in any capacity, no matter how small, I'd love to talk with you. Check out augforums.com/podcast and click the link near the top of the page to learn more about being a guest on the podcast. Third and finally, I'd love to see you listed on my Rolodex. Check out augforums.com/Rolodex to find out who else is using Acumatica and read the instructions at the top to see how you can add yourself to the list. All right, that's it for the pre-recorded intro. Let's get started. Today is Friday, January 12th, 2024, and this is episode number 120. You can find related links on the episode page at augforums.com/episode 120. Today we're talking with David Corredor, or David, I'll try my high school Spanish here, David Corredor.
That's good.
See if I did a little better. About heuristics add-on products for Acumatica. So, hey, David, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
And I don't remember exactly what the add-on products are, but I just have noticed Gabrielle, or Gabo, as a lot of people call him, has posted a few things on LinkedIn about some of the products you guys have built. And we'll get into that. But before we do, I always like to start with the brief origin story of all of our guests. So maybe you could tell us where you grew up, where you went to school, and how you landed in the world of mid-market ERP.
Sure thing, Tim. Well, I'm originally from Venezuela, as much of the heuristic team is as well. My background was electronic engineering, actually. Um, Programming was part of what we learned during the engineering class. It was a tool for us. And after graduation, there was an opportunity to start as a programmer, as a software developer with Gabo, with Gabriel. We've been friends since pretty much middle school. So we've known each other for a long, long time. And there was an opening on the company that he was working on. And I applied there. I got hired. And it turns out it was a company that dwell on the ERP business. They were developing products for another ERP, and that's where we kind of start learning. 15 years ago, we started learning about ERP world, what it does, relationship, different products, different things, and it was a great school for me as well. Um, Back then, one of the products that we created, or let me rephrase it. Back then, we learned about Acumatica, we were very excited, and we decided to create a product for Acumatica back then. That was the service management for Acumatica. We were under a different company name back then. Acumatica liked the product a lot. They acquired not only the product to integrate it into the Acumatica suite, but they also decide to hire pretty much the core of the development team from that company. So that's where Gabriel and I kind of went separate ways at that time. He went into Acumatica with the core of the developers that are now in Heuristic. I stayed on the ERP world, on the different ERP that we were working before, and they went to work for Acumatica. It was great for them because they learned the inside of Acumatica, everything that they learned as part of the engineering team. And once that contract ended up, I guess 2 or 3 years ago, Gabo decided to create a new company and start rejoining the Acumatica community, not from inside Acumatica, but from the outside. And he decided that given all the experience that the developers had, his team had, the logic idea was to offer development services to the community. So Heuristic starts as a company that offers customizations and development services to the VARs and to the clients. During that journey of creating customizations and helping VARs and clients, we identify certain areas, certain needs, and based on some projects that we had worked on, we came up with different products, which are the ones that caught your attention from Gabriel's posts. So we have currently different products. We have TimeClock, which is a clock in, clock out solution. We have an eSignature solution that allows you to create statement of works and upload it to an eSignature platform. And recently, in the last, I think it's 6 months now, we enter an agreement with Acumatica to take ownership and responsibility for the Acumatica point of sale as well. So that's a product that is now under our care and that we are working very hard to improve and to basically expand. So that's basically our story. We started together 15 years ago. Life happens. We separated. A few of our team went to work with Acumatica. A part of our team went to work on different parts of the world. As I mentioned, we are from Venezuela originally. And as you know, in Venezuela, the situation has been complex in the past few years. So that also stimulated us basically we had to migrate from Venezuela and we ended up separated throughout the world. But now under Heuristic, we had the opportunity to come together again and we're enjoying very much working together all again. So that's our backstory.
Very cool. I love getting the backstory. There's so many solutions out there, right, in the Acumatica space. And what's hard to know is the story behind a lot of them. And I think the story matters, right? If it's someone who's just tinkering with something and trying something out versus someone who has a deep history with the product and with the ERP in general, it's hard to differentiate those two. And the Heuristic team is definitely in the latter category of having deep history with the product. And, you know, I'll bring something up towards the end of the episode, something else, but, you know, about your team, I just remember Gabriel Machad, who's very, very good with the Acumatica product. I just remember him commenting about your team and about Gabo specifically, and just saying, I forget the exact words, but like he really respected your skills. And that says a lot coming from him. And so, even as you mentioned, getting that experience, even then working within the Acumatica team, your team is very well versed in the Acumatica framework and how to do things. So, yeah, these are not just three other solutions. These are, I like the way you even said it about the POS solution. It's under your care. And, I think your team is very well positioned to take care of a product well. So, anyways, thanks for all the background.
Thank you for
And,
that.
maybe we could just go step through those three solutions. I think probably POS is the most involved, so maybe it makes sense to step through them in the order you mentioned them. So first, you mentioned the time clock. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, for sure. Time, as you know, Acumatica has a great way to track time with the time and expenses module, and that integrates or branches out to other modules as well. It flows into payroll, it flows into project, all of that. So while working with one of our clients, they came up with a challenge, and is that while the screen and the time and expenses module is very powerful, it's not very user friendly for users on the field, and that was a concern for them. They needed to track time more accurately, but they couldn't have their field techs enter all the information field by field into the screen, or sit down on a computer to register their time. They needed something that was more dynamic and portable. So we came up with this solution, which is a new screen for the Acumatica mobile app that lets you clock in, clock out, just start, stop buttons. Very simple, very straightforward. And what we did to accomplish that is that we are using several default fields, default values for each user, so they don't have to enter everything every time they're going to clock in or clock out. So everything is preloaded. If they need to modify it, they can do it, but that saves a lot of time. And while we were doing that, then we started thinking, how can we improve this and make it even more useful? Because that particular client could have hundreds of projects, for example. And we're integrating with projects. That was the first phase. We integrated with projects, but say, hey, we're running into an issue where our field techs are just fat fingering the project, or they're just selecting the first one that comes up because they don't have time to scroll through 100 or 200 projects to select the right one. So we did a small improvement based on the location of the phone. Then we filter and we only show projects that are nearby in a certain radius. So that way, instead of having a list of 100 projects, they could just select maybe one, or maybe have a list of 2 or 3 to select from. And that was very, very helpful for them. So we started looking at those types of improvements. Given that we were now tracking location, then it made sense to show in a map where the actions were being taken. Like this was started at this point in the map or this other point, and that allows them for supervisors, that allows them to check if everything was being done on site or off site, which is another challenge for field techs and field personnel. So from there, we start also thinking, okay, who can use this? We can have field crews, for example, construction crews, that are going to be using this integrated for projects, but we can also help the field service side. So since we developed the service management module many years ago, we know it from the inside out. So we say, okay, how can we improve? How can we help this? And it's the same. The start, clock in, clock out. You can select an appointment. You can select the service that you're performing, and it will automatically send all the information to there. And you can even start and stop appointments from the mobile app, from the clock in, clock out screen. So that, again, saving time and basically making it easy for our users. We believe in simple products that are powerful. I think that's always been our philosophy. We, like I said, we started as offering development and customization services, but it's fun. It's funny because we always recommend to customize as little as possible because Acumatica is such a great platform and so flexible that you only really need to tweak here and there. So TimeClock leverage all the time and expenses module, leverage the projects module, leverage the service management module. What we're doing is creating a simple but effective interface to integrate all of that and track the time the way Acumatica does it, but simpler for the user.
I like that. Simple products that are powerful. I don't remember the quote exactly, but I think it's a Richard Branson quote about like anyone can make a product, but it's very difficult to make one that's simple. And I think, especially when it comes to ERP systems, right? Because you can create all these bells and whistles, but yeah, making it usable, making it simple takes a lot of work. So yeah, I love that. So it sounds like you're using the Acumatica mobile app. Um, you're tracking location. One thing you mentioned in the project scenario that I was curious about, you can show them the projects that are nearby. Then you also said something for supervisors to be able to know whether they perform the work on site or not. So is there like an extra flag that you've added when you put in a time entry? Hey, this was either on site or not, because I can tell based on the location.
Correct. We save the coordinates and or when the action is taken, we calculate. We search. Okay, where's the project address, for example, or the appointment address if we're talking about this, service management. And then with the GPS location, we determine the distance. And we have some settings in the system say, okay, your acceptable distance is maybe 500 feet from the project address, for example, or maybe a mile or a quarter mile, whatever you want to make it. It's just a setting. And then we calculate and say, yeah, this action was taken within the range. You can have a couple of different ranges or categories for that. And then we use a traffic light system on the approval screen. And we just show with colors and shortly, yeah, this action that you're approving, we mark it as red, green, or yellow. And that way the supervisor or the approver knows if they have to drill down and maybe investigate, call the person, hey, what happened here? Why did you clock in at this point or clock out at this other point? And it may be just something as simple as they had to drive to the hardware store to pick up something and then get back on site or something like that. But it allows the supervisors to actually check on that, and it's another tool for traceability and accountability, which ERPs are all about.
Very cool. Yeah, that really fits that simple philosophy where, yeah, it'd be one thing to track the coordinates. Okay, great. I've got a ton of data with coordinates, but doing that little extra mile to even have a setting where you decide how close is acceptable. Now you've turned it into insightful info, not just a bunch of data you've collected. I'm doing the extra mile to capture, am I on site or am I not? And then that's something useful to a supervisor. I love it. Very cool.
Thanks. Yeah, that's all our mentality is always based on helping the client, and I always say that we discuss it internally when we're having meetings, and we say, what is our job? What is our work description? And our work description is to help the client. How are we helping the client? Well, each one in the team has its own tool sets and abilities, but at the end of the day, we're all working together to ensure that the client is receiving something that it's useful for them. So that's always been our mentality, and thankfully, we have been able to work with great partners, great VARs, great clients that are very insightful, and they're willing to work with us and give us all that information as well, because much of this comes from the user base saying, hey, we have this challenge. What can you do to help us solve them? And that's where we come in, and we're trying to find the proper solution for that.
Very cool. So you mentioned that you work with the projects module in Acumatica and the field service module. Do you do anything? I was curious with manufacturing. I know it's a little bit different story because I I'm out of date on this. It might still be done on the labor entry screen in manufacturing instead of the time and expenses, but is that on your radar at all? Or are you doing anything there yet?
We have we don't have an official product for that. We have worked with time in manufacturing for a specific customer that had something of a similar challenge with clock in and clock out. And that was a very interesting project because they were also using um, time cards, basically ID cards, and they have tablets to clock in and clock out. So it wasn't going through the Acumatica app, it was going through a tablet, and we have a little bit of hardware involvement in there to be able to get to the sensor and the reader to get the ID. So we've had experience with that as well. It was a very cool and interesting project. I'm not sure if we would have to modify it a little bit to make it more open to the general public because there were very specific things that we did for that customer that are not probably most of the client base wouldn't need it or wouldn't require it, and that's part of our challenge as well. We work on many different specific customizations for our customers, and then we need to evaluate and see what's the common need across many of them to determine if there's something that we can come up as a product or solution to help more people than just the client that we work with. So to answer your questions, yes, we have done something with that. It's not available yet from the time point of view. We're also working right now in a very exciting project for manufacturing relating to cost roll. As I'm not sure if you know, but the cost roll screen in Acumatica is a little bit tricky to navigate, and there are some challenges in there. And we had a client recently come up to us and say, "Hey, we have a big challenge here, and it's that when you need to roll the cost for a single part, but because the cost roll in Acumatica works for the finished goods, basically are easier to handle. You say, this is my finished good, update everything that builds up to this. But they have a different challenge and say, that, hey, I have this small part and I need to roll the cost and update all my products that are involved with this, that this could be part of a sub-assembly that then is part of a finished product. So it goes down the grid very, very quickly and affects many products. And we're ending having to go into each one and roll the cost for each of the finished goods. And now we're working on the other way around. We're working on a customization that will allow you to do the other way. You select the base part, and it will update everything automatically down the road. Um, so yeah, we had our dealings with manufacturing, and I always say it's a funny story because when we started coming from the service management background, given that we were in charge of service management with development, we thought that we would start getting many requests for service management when we started offering development services. And it was the other way around. It's the module that we have customized the least, and we have the opportunity to work in pretty much every other module in Acumatica. We've done a lot of inventory distribution, obviously everything related to sales, um, manufacturing projects, and the service management has been one of the least customized uh, products for us. So it has been a great opportunity because we were able to not only apply our knowledge but learn a lot of other modules as well, and get that expertise on many other modules. But it's always funny because we always thought that we were going to be like service management customizers.
And that makes sense in that, in terms of popularity, I haven't seen it in a while, but if you look at number of Acumatica customers who are using the quote manufacturing edition versus distribution edition versus services edition, I think there's a lot more manufacturing customers than there are service or other modules. So that does make sense. And no, I like your answer there because it would have been surprising to me if you somehow rolled manufacturing into your time clock product because it is very different, the needs there. And
Yeah.
so I think that's part of keeping a product simple is that you just know what it's good at and what it doesn't do. So it sounds like the time clock product doesn't do manufacturing, but that's where, to me, you've got two sides of your business. You've got the product side, which hats off to you for doing that. A lot of developers it's very different mindset to actually build a product and then market it, right? It's one thing to customize solutions. It's another thing to keep it simple and build a product. So you've got that side, but then of course you have the services side, which is where you grew up on, and your team grew up on their skills. And so you've got experience in manufacturing. So if someone does have time entry needs there, it sounds like you have the expertise to go in and do something there.
Yeah, and we also work very closely with the bars, because sometimes we may not have the experience for a specific module or specific requirement, but the bar does. So they say, hey, we need to do this and we need to accomplish this. This is probably the best way to do it. And then we can cater to that. So either we are the experts or we are working with experts on the subject and we're learning from them. So every single project that we do is an opportunity to grow within the team. So it's been great. For me personally, I'm always motivated for learning. Learning is my motivation in work. So being able to work on so many different projects and learn so many different things, it makes the work definitely worth it for me.
Cool. So that's your time clock solution. Then what about the next one? You said eSignature, I think, for
Yes,
another
we
product you got.
have a couple of products. They're called PowerDoc and PowerSign. So again, this came from a customer. Actually, this came from working with Gabriel Michaud. He came to us, hey, I'm having some challenges creating my statement of work. I want to integrate this into Acumatica in a way that makes sense for me, for my company, and I think many other clients will have the same challenge. And it was actually that we were having the same challenge with internally for a company. So it was great working with Gabriel on that one. And basically, there are two different products. They're independent, but they're designed to work together with great synergy as well, if you choose to. The first one, PowerDoc, what it does is allows you to create your statement of work template. You can create it in Microsoft Word. So basically, you can lay them out however you want with graphics, however you want it to be, because we know that one of the restrictions in Acumatica with reports and with printing is that the reports tend to be very square. The reports are the way they are, but they're designed to put up some data in there, but they're not design friendly in terms of graphics, for example. So um, Gabriel had its own set of templates, the way that he sends his quotes and his SOWs to his clients. And he say, I want to bring this, I want to connect this to Acumatica. I want to be able to track everything in Acumatica and just press a button and create everything from there. That way I don't have to copy or send everything to my template and save it and then send it via email. I want to integrate that process. And we were having exactly the same challenge. So we decided, yes, let's work together on this. It's going to be a great opportunity for everyone. And the product does exactly that. Right now, we're working with project quotes and we are integrating sales quotes as well. And the way it works is that you create a Microsoft Word template, you upload it to Acumatica, for example, to the opportunity class. And then when you're working on an opportunity, you are entering all the information and you create your project quote or your sales quote from the opportunity. We have an action that's simple as create or generate SOW, and it will read from that template. It will read the information from Acumatica, and it will insert it into the Word template and generate a PDF file that is automatically attached to the screen. So you end up with your PDF with all the information using your own graphics, your own templates, however you want to say it. So we came up with a mapping solution using variables, or using different technologies to ensure that the information from Acumatica is stored exactly the same on the PDF, and that includes working with HTML. As you know, in the opportunity screen, you can actually add HTML formatted text. So we take that and we put it exactly the same way, So you don't have the challenge of, well, I added something in there, but it's just showing as plain text. It's not reading my bullet points, or it's not reading my bold. No, we work with HTML text as well. So it translates everything that you have Acumatica into the PDF file. So that's PowerDoc. It's a great, very powerful solution.
I'm
And
a I want to dig in more on this because I'm a reporting person. So this is very interesting to me. First, I want to confirm I understood it right. Normally, when you do a Word document, it saves it as a docx, docx. But then you have the option to save the same file as, I think it's like a dotx. It's a Word template. And normally in Word, when you save it as a dotx, it's just telling Word that if you open a dotx, this is a template for a new document. So it's like a
oh no,
starting point. Is that what you
I
mean
didn't.
by a
No,
template?
I didn't mean a template from the Microsoft Word template meaning, but just as a Microsoft Word a docx document normally,
Okay. Okay.
but just with the layout that you would like to have for your SOWs.
Gotcha. Okay. Which, yeah, I guess that makes sense because it's basically the same info
Yeah,
in the document. Okay. So it's regular Word document. And then in the Word document, you can put in variables that will get replaced with Acumatica data.
correct.
And I would assume that the tricky part there is some of those variables are like header information, like the project quote number, and other variables need to turn into multiple lines, like in a table or something. And I would assume you'd be able to do that somehow. Like you tell whatever you put in the Word document tells it to explode this into rows or just show one value. Is that right?
Yes, there are types of variables in there, and we are actually leveraging the mapping tool from the Acumatica reports. You know, the small screen that allows you to select from this view or from this table, I want this field, and it has some functions as well. You can use date functions, math functions, text functions to format everything to look exactly as you want, because you may be using, for example, the project ID, but the project ID may be a number within Acumatica, or maybe you want to get something else from there, or format it a different way. So we're leveraging all those capabilities from Acumatica's own editor, and we're using it to format the fields and map the variables to that.
So does that mean you've got a part of the solution is an add-in product for Word itself?
No, we don't need to. Everything is
Oh,
done from Acumatica, because what we do is import that file into Acumatica, and our product reads the Microsoft Word file, the text, identifies the variables, and allows you to map them.
this sounds interesting. So then you're able to generate the PDF. And right now it sounds like you're focused on the quoting scenario of project quotes and sales quotes. How close do you think you are to being just a reporting solution that could work on any data in Acumatica?
That's a very, very large possibility. And we reach out to our partners and our clients a while ago to get feedback on where would they like to see this functionality, because obviously the now we have project quotes, sales quotes, it's almost done. The next logical step would be sales orders of quote type. But once you're there, you can basically use the same to generate anything from any screen. What we need to do is to ensure that we make those mapping tables available to the user. So if they want to map something from sales order, or if they want to map something from purchase orders, or wherever they need it. So we are getting feedback right now on where they would like that our users and our partners would like to see this and use it, because it's a scalable solution, as you mentioned. It could be used for basically any screen in Acumatica, and allow you to have your own reports, or your own documents pretty much anywhere. Um, there's
Very
still a
interesting.
difference. There's still a difference with the Acumatica reporting. Like, it's not a replacement for Acumatica reports, because, as you know, reports could have a very intricate calculation behind them. and this is not it.
Right.
This is
Yeah,
it's,
grouping. Yeah, you can get it. Yeah, when you get into laying text in exactly the right spot. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
yeah, this is more customer face oriented. Like you want to have something customized to look like you want it to look. So we're gathering feedback on that one, but definitely it could be used on pretty much any Acumatica screen.
Cool. Yeah, my 2 cents there is I'd love you to add it to essentially the generic inquiry screen to make it generic, so I could feed it with whatever data I want. Then you wouldn't have to map screens in individually, right? Just have it sit on top of a generic inquiry set of data. That'd be cool.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Thank you for that idea, Tim.
Awesome.
So
Well, yeah, I could probably spend the rest of the episode on that, but I'll stop myself. So next you had power side. Go ahead. I'll let you keep going.
okay, so Power Sign is it's a complement, so to speak, to PowerDoc. So the other part of the challenge was, okay, now I have this and I use an e-signature platform to send my quotes and my SOWs to my clients. Um, and then I don't know how familiar you are with creating documents on e-signature platforms, but basically you upload a file and then you have to go into their editor, their platform, their website and say, okay, I'm adding a signature field in here. This is going to be Tim's signature. And I'm going to add another field here, and this is going to be David's signature. And then you send that, and we both receive it. You sign it on your side, I sign it on my side. So the challenge was, okay, I'm already in Acumatica and I already have the document. I want to be able to send that to my clients without having to go into the platform, edit the document again, and add all of that, right? So right now we are working with a platform that's called Sign Now. We're looking forward to expand to other documents like DocuSign or PandaDoc, those types of platforms. Right now, we're working with Sign Now. And what we did is there's a way to, the same way that we added variables to hold Acumatica information, we can add variables to hold e-signature information. And so on that template, you can already say, hey, I added all of these variables to hold Acumatica info, and I'm adding this variable to hold the signature, and this other variable to hold the signer's name, for example, or the date, or whatever you want to add. So now from Acumatica, we can via API send the document straight forward to the e-signature platform, and then send a command and say, hey, send it to everyone that it's in there as a receiver. So in Acumatica, you specify, I want to send this to Tim, David, and Gabriel. Go ahead, upload it, and send invitations. So it's, again, a one action process. Everything gets uploaded, and the invitations can set out, and then everyone can just sign from their emails like they're normal to do. So we eliminated the step of going into the platform, editing the file, because you would have to do that for every single SOW that you create. But having that in the template and having been replaced automatically by the system, then you don't have to do anything else. Once you have you edit your template once when you create it and you upload it to Acumatica, and then you don't have to ever look at that file again because everything is going to be filled with information from Acumatica.
So yeah, I got a couple questions on that. So first, you mentioned the emails. I hadn't thought about that part yet. Is that a PowerDoc feature where you then tell it who the document is going out to?
No, that would be on the Power Sign. We have a
Okay.
new tab where you say, okay, who are the recipients for this document, and you can select obviously contacts from Acumatica. Uh, Everything is tailored to work with Acumatica contacts, and you say, okay, who's going to be the signer? It automatically identifies as well those variables the same way that the Acumatica mapping does. It say, okay, I found that your template has 3 people signing it. Tell me who are the contacts for each of those 3 slots. And then you say, okay, it's going to be Tim, it's going to be David, and it's going to be Gabriel. Send it out. And since those contacts are already registered in Acumatica, then you have the email address for all of them, and it gets sent out automatically.
So PowerDoc, though, also you define how the emails get distributed as well. Just the difference is, and that I would assume there's some area in Power Doc where you tell it who the emails are going to?
Well, within the
They're just
template.
not getting signatures. Within the template. Oh,
Yeah, you do
okay.
it within the
Okay.
template.
Okay. Yeah. So that makes sense that you have then a different area in Power Sign because you need to tell it that you're requesting signatures as well. Okay. So I guess where I'm going with that then is they are separate products. It sounded for a second there that Power Sign needed Power Doc to work. It doesn't. They're two
No,
different
it doesn't.
distribution mechanisms. Okay.
But they have great synergy together.
Right. From a use case standpoint, right?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Not from a technical standpoint. They're not
No,
intertwined. Is that
you
okay?
could upload any PDF that you need to upload and send it for signature if it has all the appropriate fields in there as well. It doesn't have to be generated by PowerDoc. But if you're
Gotcha.
using PowerDoc and you're using the signature, then it just makes sense to use both together.
And so you're working right now with one called Sign Now. And, I haven't done one of these yet. I've always wanted to do an electronic signature capture product. So I haven't thought it through myself, but I I like how you're addressing the real pain, which is the practical part of it. Because oh boy, it's probably been a few years, but I know Acumatica did like at a summit they showed the integration. I think it was with Adobe Sign at the time, and you know the focus there is like all on which platform you're going to use to sign, Adobe Sign or DocuSign, etc. But I hadn't thought about the workflow. Yeah, that'd be really annoying. I don't care who the provider is. If I then have to go in every single time and tell it where the signature needs to capture, that's a real pain, right? So like I like how it's almost like the backend service provider doesn't matter as much as the workflow, and I'll just take whatever one you're working with if you've got a better workflow. I like that.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, is does the provider has an API that allows you to do this? Yes or no? So that's the only concern or the only possible possible stop sign. If the provider doesn't have an API that allows you to send a document and request signatures and everything via API, then of course we cannot work with them. But most of them do nowadays. Is a very very standard feature. And again, we're considering other platforms now, part of the product growing, I guess, and we are looking at those. I think those are the main that we're looking at right now: DocuSign, PandaDoc, and Adobe, and we expect to have something come up for those platforms as well. And we have found that many clients, like you said, they're willing to switch if they have to, because at the end of the day, there's no this adds more value to them than just having or being married to a specific provider, because they're saving tons of time,
Right. Yeah. The
and
pricing
reducing
might
human
be a
error.
little different, but for the most part, the providers are a commodity. It's comes down to the workflow, and yeah, that's I think where the differences likely are between the signature providers. It's their user interface, but you kind of eliminated that by putting the user interface in Acumatica, so it becomes less relevant there, and yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and it falls with simple products, simple but effective. So you don't have to do anything else. You're for your users, they'll be just working in Acumatica and doing Acumatica stuff and clicking Acumatica actions, and they don't have to worry about anything else. We of course have an, a setting to refresh and get the status back to see if it has been signed or not. So everything goes back to Acumatica, and from Acumatica you can see if a person already signed the document or not. You don't have to ever go into the other platform. You don't have to leave the work environment that you're
Right.
with. Everything is brought up to you. All the information is brought up to you in a way that is useful for you to make decisions.
And this one is a big one because Gabrielle from Velixo came to you with the problem. You were already having the same problem. And there are a lot of VARs that are eating their own dog food. They're running Acumatica themselves. And so they all have the same need. So yeah, this one's a big one. Your customer list here, in my opinion, is primarily VARs, at least to start. because they have this pain, and a lot of them are running Acumatica themselves. So yeah, anyone out there who's a VAR, pay attention to the eSignature, PowerDoc, and PowerSign. I like it.
Yeah. We feel the same, and for us, it's been great. It's been real useful. We can see the time that we save doing this, and I think anyone that tries it is gonna feel the same way.
Yeah, we actually. Well, anyways, never mind. I won't go into it. Also, you eliminate the two hand problem, right? Where like someone prepared the quote, but then there's someone else on the team who had to go send it out through the eSignature, and that part didn't get done yet. And that's a real annoying from a client side. I've experienced that. They're like, "Where's my quote? I just need to sign it, right?" And they're like, "Oh, well, we did it. Oh, but that's right. The next person in line didn't get to it yet. It's done automatically for you." That's pay attention, VARs. This is a good one. All right. Well, last one, POS. This one I would think is the biggest one. So if I got the history correct on this, actually, I don't even remember now. Someone developed. It might have been. Do you know the history on it? Who developed
Yes,
this thing originally? Go ahead. You tell me.
IIG. IIG were the initial developers of this, and it was a product that was acquired by Acumatica. So they saw potential in the product, they acquired it, and the product was a very useful product, I would say. It has a very dedicated space within the point of sale ecosystem in here. Um, but Acumatica, I don't know exactly the reasons why, but let's say the product was a little bit on pause, like they couldn't keep up with all the requirements and all the development and new features that the customers were asking for. And I'm gonna guess that it's because there's a lot of backend changes going in Acumatica. They have very large projects on the back end with the framework and updating things, and they have a ton of work on the general ERP itself. So I'm guessing they didn't have the bandwidth to cater to all of the requirements for the point of sale. So they came to us with a very nice conversation with them. We've been always working closely together because all the shared history that we had between Heuristic and Acumatica, being part of their team for so many years. So we had an excellent relationship with everyone in Acumatica. And they asked us if we would be interested in taking ownership and responsibility for the Acumatica point of sale. So obviously we were very excited. We reviewed the current state of the product. We said, yes, this needs to a little fix here and there. It's not perfect. It's not in the state that we would like it to be, but we can get it there. We trust our team. We know we have the skills and we have the capability. And we are also working very closely with Acumatica on this regarding the roadmaps, the features, everything that we're going to be developing and adding to the product to ensure that everything aligns with what Acumatica is doing. So for the past 6 months, we have been working on fixing some details and some issues that were present in the product, making sure that it's stable, improving workflows, making sure that the way to do things is the most efficient one and there are not too many things, because the Acumatica point of sales, again, like all our products, we relied on Acumatica. We basically leverage Acumatica functionalities, and what we do is expand it and making sure that we are adding what the user needs that is not in the base module. So for the POS, for example, Acumatica point of sale is right now is oriented to counter sales. That's our space within the point of sale community right now, and that comes from the need of having a back office versus a front office, because within Acumatica you can do a lot of things with sales orders, you can do a lot of things with the invoices, managing payments, but at the end of the day you need, or some of our clients need to separate what's back office from what's front office. You need to be able to enter an order quickly when you have your client standing in front of you purchasing stuff. So what the product is designed to do is to separate those things, so you can enter orders, but you are still within Acumatica, so you still get the benefits of updating inventory availability. You still create your sales orders, you still create your invoices, you still register payments all the way in Acumatica like Acumatica does it. We're just providing an intermediate point of entry that allows you to do things quickly and not have to rely on all the back office processes that can be much slower than just entering the order and processing things at the moment. No? So that's where the Acumatica point of sale is right now. We're working, like I said, together with Acumatica. I'm not sure if you've heard on the last version, Acumatica released the Acumatica payments. It's still a working feature. So right now we're working on integrating with Acumatica payments on the point of sale, and the same way we're working together with them, and we're deciding. We already have our roadmap for this year with very exciting new features, but we're leveraging what Acumatica has and make it. Basically, we're trying to make it easier and available for the user.
I would love to dig into this with more questions. What I'm looking at the clock right now and wondering, do you have another meeting coming up at the top of the hour, or are you able to go over?
No, I'm good.
Would you be okay going over? Because I'm wondering if you couldn't, I would punt it to maybe another episode. But if you're good to go over,
No,
I'd love
yeah,
to
I'm
dig in
good to
more.
go over. No problem.
Okay. First, I'll include a link to that press release. I believe Acumatica pushed back out both point of sale and there was something else. I just lost it. Oh, I can't remember now. There was another product that they had brought under the Acumatica umbrella, and then they pushed it back out to someone else.
I think it was some property management.
Yes,
App.
that was it. The
Yeah.
property match. Okay, so I was very happy to see that because I think, if I remember correctly, I think both of them were under Joel Hoffman, who is the construction product manager. And like you looked at his LinkedIn title. Actually, here, if it's still out there, I'll include a screenshot on this episode. Let me put a link. And I remember looking at his LinkedIn title. I'm like, how are you going to do all of that stuff? That's just way too much on your plate. And you said maybe the bottleneck was in because of the focus on moving to .NET Core, and there's so much other development stuff. I personally don't know if that was really the bottleneck. I'm speculating here, right? And you have a contractual relationship with Acumatica, so you need to be more politically correct when you say I don't. So I think that I just think they took on too much, right? I don't think the challenge here with these products is development primarily. I think it's understanding what people want, right? And making it simple. And here's where you do not have to say that you agree with this or not. But I would say Acumatica as a company historically is not good at making simple products that are powerful. They're good at making powerful tools that you can build stuff with, but it's not simple, right? It's like it's not the polished end product, right? And so they sell well to companies that have like an IT led product search because it's a geeky product. They know they can turn it into what they want. They love the framework, blah blah blah, but it's not simple. It's not as polished, right? And so that piece of understanding what the customer really wants and having it really be simple, in my opinion, is the real challenge for both their POS and for the property management, right? And I don't think they had the chops to do it. So I applauded that. I was happy to see that they for a while there they were just kind of bringing everything in, right? We can do this, we can do that, and I was happy to see that they stopped that, pushed that out, kept Joel focused on construction, where I think he needs to be focused on. And so, anyways, I was happy to see all that on the background. Now, it sounded like it landed on your plate. So now we have a true simple product that our powerful philosophy are being applied to it. And let's dig in on it. So you talked about counter sale was the main focus right now. At least when you got it. I have a question on that scenario. I don't know POS that well, but I think one of the challenges there is that when you're at the counter in a store, you've got a customer in front of you. I mean, I experienced this. I have a feel for this. Like how long it takes the credit card to process, I can feel when I'm standing there. How long it takes the receipt to print out, I can feel whether it's 1 second or 3 seconds, right? That like every fraction of a second matters there. And so because of that in the POS realm, I think there's a challenge with something that's online versus something that's on-prem because data is taking a little bit longer to communicate back and forth. Talk to me a little bit about, is that a challenge that you see? Does it have to be online? Is there some on-prem thing that
it,
you're working on? Talk to me about that.
it's definitely a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. And the way this product was originally or is originally structured is that it allows two ways of working. You can do everything online at the same time. That means uh, what you created or what you have in front of you when you are on the counter, it's a POS order. Okay, that's basically an interface that allows you to enter the products that you're selling, enter the payment information, and process. So that is released, and when that's released, that's impacting the Acumatica back end. It's generating sales orders, it's generating payments, it's moving inventory around, it's doing everything that it needs to do. So there are two options. For certain clients, they are not in a rush because maybe there could be, for example, a tool or material, a construction material store, and they're dealing with a contractor in front of them that it's not trying to run off. He's just purchasing a lot of stuff for his project, so it's not that same supermarket experience where you are in there just waiting to go quickly, right? So that they can have those additional extra seconds and process everything uh, online, so to speak, at the same time and have everything released, and they have those spur seconds. Other customers, they don't. Other customers, they need to move forward to the next client and go through the line because there's a line waiting to process. For those, we actually use the front, the POS order is released, the inventory is updated, but everything else is put on hold. So then someone in the back office can run all the processes to create uh, your Acumatica invoices, payments, sales orders, everything. If you need to order something because you don't have availability and you need to create a purchase order or a transfer, whatever you need to do, like we separate those processes so you can have the front end and the back end. So it's a big challenge. Timing is a big challenge, and it depends on each customer and their business model. To be completely honest, we have some customers, for example, that they have small counter on the front and they have their warehouse where they run a wholesale, for example, a wholesale business from there, but they also use that warehouse to sell detail retail in front. So we need to integrate those things because the warehouse is being managed by the back office, but you still need to interact with that from the front office. So it's definitely a challenge. And part of the work that we're doing right now is streamlining processes and workflows to ensure that we reduce that document overhead as much as possible and to make it as simple as possible. We are gonna be one of the changes that we're doing is we're leveraging the mix orders functionality that was recently introduced in Acumatica for source holders that allows you to do returns and sales on the same document. So we're going to be leveraging that as well. Because for older versions, you had that all that paper trail for a sale here, a return here. Are you doing a payment? Are you doing a credit memo? Whatever you're doing, it was a lot of documents. So we are cutting those off and making sure that we streamline the process and make it simple.
That sounds exciting. I'm excited to see where the POS product goes now that, as you said earlier, it's under your care. So yeah, to me, this, I don't know, to me, Acumatica taking that out and sending it out to you guys uh, drastically changed the trajectory of the product. And in software, it's not just about where it's at; it's almost more importantly about where it's headed. So to me, that's exciting for people who have maybe looked at the POS product in the past and weren't happy with it. It's a different story now, I think. And so maybe though that aside, tell us a little bit more about where it's at now. I still haven't, me personally, I haven't really touched a POS situation. How does it work? Is it a what's showing up on the screen in front of someone? Is it a web browser? Is it a mobile app on an iPad? What is that user
So
interface?
right now it's a web browser Acumatica screen. So what it has is basically faster ways to access the information. So we have, for example, buttons to add inventory items directly into the grid of what you're selling without to actually having to go to the selector, find the product. We have quick access button that you press it and it adds automatically the product to the grid. Same with payments. If you're doing a credit card payment or a check, cash, we have buttons to expedite that process to ensure that you can enter the information quickly, like this is a cost, this is the payment, this is the product, process, print all, everything that needs to be printed from for your receipt. Here you go, and you're done. Next customer. Like we're really trying to make this uh, as fast as possible and as simple as possible. And there are some things that we already want to improve. There are some UI changes that we are going to implement to make it more mobile friendly as well. Because that's one of the challenges is that you only have so much screen real estate to work with. So you need to make sure that you make the most of it uh, using quick access buttons, but at the same time, you also need to have your regular Acumatica information in there, so the screen can function within Acumatica, because that's a big part of Acumatica point of sale. That it's not an external product that synchronizes with Acumatica. It's already within Acumatica, so everything is being done live. That's a great advantage. You don't have to wait. You won't get your inventory out of sync. You won't be expecting something to come in, an invoice or pay. Everything is already in Acumatica. So that's the big advantage. But yeah, the challenge is that requires certain objects, certain fields, certain screen real estate that you have to assign to Acumatica, and then you can use the rest on useful information and quick access buttons. So we're trying to balance that out, and we already have some improvements in mind that we're going to do to make it more user friendly and more accessible than what it already is.
Yeah, it's a great way of putting it. And yeah, it's pros and cons. Like you said, in the restaurant situation, I think it's a little bit of a con because you're sacrificing seconds, but it's a pro in that yeah, everything's live. You're not syncing data, and especially in I don't know that Acumatica is in a lot of restaurants. I don't there's so many POS apps that are tailored to restaurants, right? So I think it does make sense to go that route for Acumatica customers, where a lot of them are just selling out of the back of their warehouse, or it's a little more of an industrial setting, right? And as long as you have a good internet connection, a lot of them are it's a computer. It's not just a tablet, and so that makes sense. In the tablet situation, it's still then just a tablet running a web browser. And so when
Correct.
you were alluding to you're kind of sacrificing some real estate, you're just talking about the Acumatica menu bar on the top, basically, right?
Yes, and
Okay.
how things are laid out, because you still need a header and then you have your grid detail. So you need to be able to play around the screen with all of that. And one important thing that now that you were mentioning the restaurant industry and possible clients is that we work very closely with Acumatica when qualifying leads and opportunities, because we want to ensure that our point of sale customers are a good fit for the product, or the product is a good fit for them. It's just not about trying to push this to anyone who needs a point of sale, because they're going to have different needs. So it may be suitable for some clients, it may not be suitable for others, and that's fine. And we're working very closely with Acumatica on this. Their pre-sales team is involved, so we're working hand by hand to ensure that if this product is right for you or for your customers, that's going to have Acumatica's approval as well. It's not just us trying to sell a product or not. There's the whole Acumatica involved in this, ensuring that we are doing uh, or we are selling something that the client needs and it's going to be able to use. And I think that's something that not every product out there has right now. And it's that sometimes uh, basically sellers try to push their product to whoever wants to buy it. And then you end up with this complicated implementations, all these issues, delays, and an unhappy customer because they are receiving something that is not what they thought they were buying. So we want to eliminate all of that. We want to ensure that if we're selling this product to a client, it's because it fits their model and it's going to allow them to streamline their processes, and they're going to like it because it's adding value to them, not just because it's another POS.
Makes sense. Yeah, fits with the simple products that are powerful. You can't have a simple product if you try to be everything to everyone. Yeah, you have to know what it's good at. That makes sense.
Exactly.
Would it be an oversimplification to essentially describe it as the sales order screen with bigger buttons and simpler? I mean, not just bigger buttons, but just simpler workflow. At the end of the day, though, it's a sales order. Am I right?
Yes, at the end of the day, the POS turns into it could turn into a sales order or into a sales invoice, depending on your configuration. You can do invoice directly. You can do sales order because maybe you need to replenish inventory and you need to do all of that. It depends on how you want to set it up. And it's a bit of a oversimplification, but yes, what we are providing is a better interface to work with what Acumatica already does and does very well.
And something that's more touch friendly on a tablet, right?
Yes, we're trying to improve that UI as well, but yes, it's basically saving you time. If you're going to do a sales order or a sales invoice, you could still do many of those things without the point of sale, to be completely honest, but it's going to take you a lot more time. And when you have a customer standing in front of you, like you said, every second counts. So it adds a lot of features that will make your life easier. And at the end of the day, that's what you need. Something that allows you to sell quickly, to cater to your clients and not waste time, because time is the most valuable resource.
Now, it's been a while since I looked at field service, but I think it's a different screen in field service. I think it's a service order. But do you have any ability to do something there in a situation where I'm selling out of the back of my truck? I'm fixing a customer's air conditioning, and I'm making a sale right there, right where my service people kind of turn into upselling salespeople. They're on site to do a service for someone fixing an air conditioning unit or whatever, and they now are able to do an additional service where they add it on and even maybe take the payment right there. Do you do anything there yet, or is it just the sales order screen?
It's actually funny that you asked, because we had a couple of clients or opportunities in the past couple of months that have a similar business, like that they operate with a network of trucks, and they will provide some services and make some sales, and deliver some products out of the truck. And currently we haven't found a way to support them, or we don't have a way to support them at the moment, but we are already working on alternatives for that, and adding features to the roadmap, because it's a real situation that some of our possible customers are having. And the challenge there, and for basically any field truck that needs to do sales, is that a good chunk of the time they don't have internet connection. That's a big challenge.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you're working with Acumatica, everything is live, everything is online. So that's a big challenge, and we're trying to see if there are any alternatives that we can implement. Um, but definitely offline, being off the grid with data connection, that's the big issue there, because Acumatica is not that friendly if you don't have data connections.
Very interesting. Yeah, I'll be curious to see if you go the offline route and essentially develop your own framework for that. Yeah, that'd be really cool. Very interesting.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's a
That would be a heavy
possibility
lift. Yeah, it'd be a heavy lift.
for
Well,
sure.
cool. Um, Thank you for going through that. I was curious to learn more details about those products. And as I told you before we hit record, I like using this podcast as a way to do that. And, well, might as well hit record in case someone else would like to know about it as well. Uh, Coming back to, if you're a VAR doing statements of work, I think you want to look at PowerDoc and PowerSign. um, so yeah, thanks for taking the time today to go through that. Was there anything else on the products? I had one more thing I wanted to mention, but anything else on the products themselves?
Well, our big products right now are those. We have a couple of extra products. Again, same philosophy. One is, I think it's a really nice one, and I like it very much. And it's leveraging the challenge with the intercompany transactions. If you have worked with intercompany transactions within Acumatica, you know that everything that goes into the intercompany accounts, the description is not really useful. The description for the intercompany accounts is something like transaction from branch X or something like that. It doesn't tell you anything. And when you're reviewing your accounts, you're doing your auditing, it's going to be a challenge for those intercompany accounts because there's no easy way to match those or to know where they come from. If you're reviewing the batch itself, you're okay because in the batch you have the context of the transactions. But if you're doing the history or the details for a specific intercompany account, you are dead in the water. There's nothing that you can get there. So what we did is we created a small product that when you are creating the batch, when the system is creating the batch in GL, um, and it's related to an intercompany transaction, we intercept that and we change the description of the transaction. And we add information such as, for example, if it's a vendor, which model it comes from, which document is related to, maybe the description from the transaction line or the description for the document where it comes from. So it allows you to see the real history when you're auditing your intercompany accounts. So that's called intercompany descriptions. It's a very simple product again, but very powerful because it works with obviously AR, AP, cash. We are integrated with 4 or 5 different modules and getting the information from those modules into the intercompany transaction description to ensure that you can review and audit better. So I really like that one.
So this might be too technical, but since you did the work to go in and find, where those things are happening, do you know if you had the thought that maybe it could be made even more generic? Like, I don't know if this is really how it works when you get into the details. It might come down to individual screens, but if it is really this like central brain that handles it the same way for every screen, would there be a way to allow someone to modify the descriptions that get generated from any type of journal entry?
We actually have thought about that. Right now we have it for specific screens, but we could make that mapping available to the user and allow them to not only like the format that we use to replace saying, hey, this is a customer, this is the description, this is the date, or wherever we adding in that description, we could make that available to the user through a screen, through an interface, and they could change it as well. That idea came up. The clients that have purchased so far the intercompany descriptions, they're more than happy with what we're providing right now. They say that it would be a nice to have, but it's not really a necessity at the moment because they're getting all the information that they need. So since we are covering already the necessity in there, um, it's an idea. We do have a couple other ideas down the road to improve the product as any product does. But right now, no, it's not visible. It's just whatever we have already set up for certain screens and certain documents.
Yeah, so it's not on the roadmap, quote, 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 because someone's got to really be asking for it to get there. But if you had someone come to you with that, I guess the part I don't understand, do you think it's really generic enough where you wouldn't have to go in and modify every single screen? You think you really would be able to make it generic without having to touch the code on all the screens? Like, is that central logic that generates journal entries really that separate from the screens themselves, as far as you know?
Well, you could always have a mapping screen and say, hey, for this screen, I want these fields, and and that's how you map it.
Without and so like when you deploy your customization project, you wouldn't have to touch the code of the individual screens. It would be pretty
We don't
separate.
we
Oh,
don't we work
oh,
directly reading. We're going to have a list and say for these screens you will be reading this and this field, and
yeah.
that's where we
Okay.
are at in the transaction. So you don't have to go
Oh,
all around. You just need to have a list of what you want to change.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, the UI I would love to see would be not even like generating entries, but like just give me the list of all the possibilities, and then I just check if I'm going to override it or not with the formula. That'd be really cool. But yeah, as you say, it comes down to someone who actually needs it. But I feel like that need is out there. It's just accountants don't want to leave the general ledger, right? I mean, as a former
Yes.
accountant myself, I'm always just like, just join out to the other transaction to pick up that information. But the accountants don't want to do that because they don't trust it, right? The GL is their thing. That's what they trust. And so, yeah, the more you could just like throw information into that field, that would be really interesting. And, it's hard to find, I think, the people who need that because, the accountants are just back in the corner somewhere in front of their laptops and they don't get out and listen to podcast episodes like this, or maybe they do. And they don't even know that it's possible to do that. So that's actually a really interesting one to me. I didn't realize that you wouldn't have to modify all the screens. So I have to keep my ears open for that more. I'll circle back with you if I uncover a need there. That's cool.
For sure. And the last product that we have currently, it's called CI/CD, is for continuous implementation, continuous deployment. So what we do here, this is more catered for VARs or clients that have in-house development, for example, and it's a product that allows them to automatically deploy customizations and yeah, customization packages and their code from their repositories into an Acumatica instance. So basically, you have your repository with your code, whatever customization you're doing within Acumatica. And what we do is when you upload that to a repository, basically it triggers an action, and the product, what it does is brings all of that code, it compiles it, it generates whatever it needs to generate in terms of customization, and deploys that automatically to an Acumatica instance. So everything that you were deploying
Oh,
or you were working on, it's automatically deployed into, for example, your staging environment. And then you can go there, make all the changes that you need to do. You make your corrections, you update your code, you do another commit, and then you can deploy automatically, for example, from staging to production. And it also takes in consideration third-party products that you may have. So you can just upload, for example, if you have your zip files for different products like Velixo or one of our heuristic products as well, and you just add it to a folder. And when you're committing your code, when you're doing your committing your code repository, it will take those products as well and deploy them automatically into the instance, into your Acumatica instance. So you have consistent environments each time to make sure that you're testing correctly, or where you're upgrading from one Acumatica version to another, and you want to do that automatically, you can do it through your code repository and your commit. So it's more catered to people that have in-house development or VARs that are working in that case for upgrading, and you have multiple instances, your sandbox, your staging, your production, and all of that. It does the automatic deployment of your code and your products.
this might be too simplified of a use case, but I have been looking for something like this. And actually, the winner of the Acumatica hackathon last year at Summit 2023, I'm going to read their first two sentences from their description on the Acumatica page. Team MU, created an all-in-one customization package manager. No longer do admins have to wait until 2 a.m. to publish a customization project. This might be overly simplified, but I think it might come down to pricing. Like, would it be too expensive for this simple of a use case? Could someone use your solution as a customer just to be able to deploy a new customization project without having to wait until 2 a.m. to publish it when everyone's off the system?
Yeah, definitely yes. The only constraint or restraint is that we are working with code repositories. So you
Ah,
still need a code, our anchor point for a code. It could even be a dummy project. It doesn't have to be a real project or anything, but you still need a repository because right now it's designed to cater for in-house development, but it completely works with customization packages, and that's actually one of the things that we are looking into is um, how we could move that anchor point from a code repository into something else. Because again, all of this comes from projects that we have worked with our clients, and we can see that it can escalate to other things. And we know that there are many VARs out there. We work actually with a few of them that they have their in-house development team, and they reach out to us when they need a product or if they have surplus work that they cannot manage internally and they need a development team. They trust us, so they come with the customization projects to us. And those type of bars, this is just very very useful because you don't have to start, like you said. You can deploy all your products as well, not only your code but your products, and that gives you constant and consistent deployments so you can test and you can move forward. So for clients, it would be possible, yes, that you still need the repository to be able to trigger it, but we are also evaluating other ways to trigger that.
so if I understand it right, I would have like my source code on GitHub, for example,
Correct.
and you're actually taking the source code and turning it into a customization project and deploying it
Correct.
all automatic. Ah, okay. So yeah, for VARs and for ISVs or for those Acumatica customers who do their own development, yeah, so maybe it is a separate product probably that just takes, give me a place. All I want, and it could probably be done in Python because the Acumatica endpoints are there. It's very simple, but I think it's very useful. All I want is, and this is what the hackathon team did. But what I didn't like about what they did is they did it inside the Acumatica framework. So like you upload it into Acumatica, and then it still uses the endpoint. So it's almost like Acumatica goes outside of itself and then comes back in to publish it. I would rather just have like a simple URL, but then you got to fire up a website, with credentials and stuff. But just give me a place to upload a zip file that's a customization project and schedule when I want it to get published. Or I guess it's not one zip file, it might be, the whole list
Yeah.
of customization projects, right? That's my master. And if it fails on publishing, it's nothing's going to happen, just like when you fail on a publish. But yeah, that especially when you're in kind of a rapid iteration, it's so annoying to have to like wait till everyone's out of the system time after time after time again. Yeah, that could be a cool little product for you guys. I
Yeah.
don't know how many people need it, but yeah, it comes back down to people got to ask for it and be willing to pay for it before you bother building it.
Exactly. It's a matter of how much time it does save for you. That's the end of the line. Time is the most expensive commodity out there. So we are trying to do products that save time for users on certain situations. And if it's a good fit, it's great. If it's not a good fit, then you don't have the need on the first time. If you don't have the need, obviously the product is not for you, and that's also fine. There may be other ways that we can help.
Yeah, and in this situation, it's not how much time, it's when the time is spent. Because even if
True.
it takes me just 15 minutes, 15 minutes at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
is a lot more expensive to me than 15 minutes at 12 p.m. So if I could schedule at 12 p.m., those 15 minutes are much more valuable to me than the 15 minutes, Yeah,
Definitely,
anyway.
definitely. So yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you going over. What are there any more? Did you keep going?
No, currently those are our main products. We are coming out with a few more this year probably. We are just making sure that we have the right specs and we're catering to the right needs with them. But but for now, that's what we have.
Well, cool. I wanted to mention one thing at the end here. Kind of circling back to your intro at the beginning. A lot of the heuristic team was on the M5 team originally that developed the field service module for Acumatica that Acumatica then acquired. And when that happened, I can't remember the year now. It might have been 2016. Um, uh, I was working at Acumatica at the time, and so a group of us went over to Washington D.C. and had Gabo was there, Anna Karina was there, and I can't. Who was the owner of M5? Can't remember his name right now.
Jorge,
Jorge.
Gabriel and Jorge were the co-owners of that.
So and Jorge was there too. So the three of them, we sat in a room for a couple days and kind of learned what it was that Acumatica had just acquired. And I'll never forget. At one point, like we were figuring out what to do in the evening, and Gabo and Anna Karina were like, "We're gonna go over to Walmart and buy rice." And I was like, "Huh? Buy rice? What?" And so this might be too personal of a story, but as a spoiled American, I didn't even know what was going on in Venezuela at the time. And I was just blown away that they were going to do that and bring it back on the plane with them because that was something that was very hard to get at the time. And one thing for me that I've really appreciated working in the Acumatica community is, especially as a spoiled, geographically illiterate American, my eyes have been opened to what's going on in the rest of the world much more than they ever have. And that's one thing I've been very thankful for working in the Acumatica community, getting to meet amazing people like Gabo and now you on this podcast who deal with challenges far beyond anything I can imagine. You grew up in Venezuela. When I worked in the computer lab when I was a student at UCLA, one of the guys, Carlos, I can't remember his last name right now. He was from Venezuela, and he would tell me just how much fun he had when he graduated from college, and they partied on the beach for like 3 days straight. He said, and that was the Venezuela that he grew up with. And I remember, man, those Venezuelans know how to live. I remember thinking that was the last I knew of Venezuela until I met Gabo and Anna Karina, and wow, I realized how much had changed since the last I had heard about Venezuela. And now you, I believe, are in Canada. I know a lot of the heuristic team is in Mexico City. Some are still in Venezuela, and similar stories with developers in Ukraine, and even now Acumatica themselves. The Moscow office, as far as I know, doesn't even really exist anymore. They're scattered all over the place. And I've just been very grateful to, I'm not experiencing it firsthand, but just having that awareness of what just the more of the global community, what people face. I've just been very thankful for that. So um, I just wanted to say that on the podcast that with your team, you are you guys still continue to pull off amazing things professionally in the face of very big personal challenges. And I think with heuristic specifically, I feel like you guys do have a big advantage in that for U.S. customers, your time zones align very well. So even though you've distributed along the latitude, if I got that right, you went up in latitude, you're still kind of longitudinally similar time zones, right? And so it's easier than working with developers like in Europe or um, India or something like that. So, anyways, I don't know if there's any response. No need to respond to anything in there, but I just wanted to say that on the podcast. I I've been appreciative to broaden my personal horizons, working with so many amazing people because software works that way, right? It's like you can work no matter where you are, and you get to meet a lot of really cool people. Being working with Acumatica the last 10 years.
Thank you, Tim, for your words. They do mean a lot. And yes, as a team, we have faced many challenges, both personal and professionally. So we are very thankful to be where we are right now and to have the opportunity to work together again after some years being apart, everyone kind of doing their own thing, some within Acumatica, some outside. And the fact that we were able to reunite again under their heuristic flag now, for us, it means a lot. It means a lot. And that's part of the passion that we bring into our work, and it's because we like working with as a team. We are very close friends within the company. It's one of the best companies I've ever worked for in terms of a work environment, in terms of relationships, in terms of how everything is handled internally. It's a company where the leadership listens, where the leadership cares about the employees, because we all have this shared experience through life that puts things in perspective. And one of the our principles is that our people goes first. That as a company, that's one of our principles and our directives, is that we care for each other, because everything that we have lived through. And I'm very thankful to hear your words on that, and to hear that even without wanting to do so, like within the Acumatica community, people hear and people notice things, and people are becoming more aware of global issues, not only ours as Venezuelans, like what you say, Ukraine, Russia. There are plenty challenges out there, and even within the U.S. You mentioned that you had this privileged quote quote life, so to speak, compared to other countries, but even within the U.S. there are many people facing many challenges as well. There are on an equivalent category to the ones that we have discussed. So it's not something to overlook. It's not just because we are here or there, life gets easier. Everyone has their own story, and the Acumatica community has been very, very welcoming, I would say, with those type of issues. And there's a human component to it that I haven't seen in other communities. So we are very grateful to be in this community as well.
Awesome. 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 Well, hey, thanks again for going over so much. Any other things that we didn't get to that you'd like to mention?
No, I think we're good. It's been great. Thank you very much for having me on this podcast, team. We're very excited to be here. Basically, we've been talking internally about this podcast for weeks now, and we were all very excited to come here and be able to reach out, not only to you, but to the community in general. And it's been a great experience for me. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, that's it for now. We'll catch you on the next episode of ogforums.com Real Talk. Thanks for listening, and take care.